What's up, hockey friends? Well, here we are again. I feel like for the past almost 10 years we always end up here in the same situation somehow. We're of course talking about the Penguins goaltending situation, which once again is a hot topic, and this time because of Tristan Jarry's, well, let's be nice here, below average performance in the playoffs. So as we know, the Penguins went out in 6 games against the Islanders, but it wasn't really because they played badly. They were actually pretty good, and while the Islanders kept Crosby to a measly 2 points, the Penguins were, statistically speaking, the better team across the series. In Game 5 and 6, they dominated in terms of expected goals for, Corsi, and all that good stuff. And they probably would have won both Game 5 and 6 had it not been for Tristan Jarry. Now I'm not here to give you a full season analysis, review, whatever of the Penguins season. We know what they did. They started off the season pretty poorly, came back and won the East Division. And Tristan Jarry was their main man in net after shipping away Matt Murray in the offseason, which made sense at the time given the less than good season Matt Murray had put up, and because Jarry was actually good and was an all-star. But his first season as the Penguins number 1, well, like I said, he started the season off poorly, but then him and his team got better, which helped the Penguins get in a good position to win the division. And they did, and they went into the playoffs probably feeling pretty good about themselves. Then the Islanders happened, and more importantly, the Penguins goaltender always blowing it happened. I'm not going to look at every goal from every game, but the stats from Evolving Hockey and MoneyPuck.com tell the story. Yeah, stats and eye tests can be different, but the eye tests say the same thing as the stats say. Tristan Jarry is not good. Well, he wasn't good in the playoffs, he's pretty average, but in the playoffs he was just not good. And it's just not the inability to save pucks, it's also that OT goal in Game 5, where he just placed the puck out to Josh Bailey. It's just not good enough. The Penguins would have won this series if they had above or just average goaltending, but they didn't. And I want to show you a stat. .973. Great! Wait, that's not what I think it is, right? Yes it is. It's the expected goals against right after he gave up goal number 5 in Game 6. He let in 5 goals from shots that didn't even equal into 1 expected goal. You don't need to be a hockey analysis genius to understand that that is not good. Now, spoiler alert, I'm not a pro athlete, so I don't know what it's like to be in Jarry's shoes, or skates rather, but the constant jeering from the Islanders fans must have got to him. And I like to think these athletes are mentally trained to shut things like that out, but I can't help to think that it rattled Jarry a lot. And I guess it worked, because his performance was the worst by any goaltender in the playoffs since Ilya Bryzgalov in 2014 for the Wild. And for the Penguins, it's the worst since that 2012 series against the Flyers where Fleury couldn't catch a beach ball. So it wasn't a good performance from Jarry. You know, you don't need to save every single puck in every game. You won't. The first goal the Islanders scored in Game 5 could be blamed on the defense, but sometimes you just have to step up and bail your team out and not get beat short side on your glove side. So I mean, I'm kinda saying it is Jarry's fault anyway. The Penguins took the lead 3 times in Game 6 and blew it 3 times. Now granted, one of those goals can't be blamed on Jarry, but the 2 others most definitely can. Like I said, the first glove side goal, and then his bad rebound control on another goal, and then the 2 other goals that gave the Islanders the lead, yeah, they're not pretty good. So a very bad performance from Tristan Jarry, and while he's not eating up a huge part of their cap, I'm pretty sure the Penguins are looking at moving him in the offseason. So, what's going to happen next? The first thing that pops into my mind, and I think a lot of Penguins fans would agree, is to trade Jarry. It sounds so simple, but who would want him? When he's performing and playing at his best, he's pretty good and he's got a good contract, so there could be teams that are willing to take a chance on a still pretty young goalie with a good contract, like Ottawa did with Matt Murray. Now the Penguins probably won't get too much in return, his playoff performance probably tanked his value, but if you get rid of Jarry, you'll need a new number 1. Casey DeSmith is a good backup, but I wouldn't trust him to be my number 1. So, who am I suggesting? I think the dream for the Penguins is John Gibson. Yeah, I know, he's not been fantastic over the past 2-3 seasons, but he's so talented, and when he's at his best, he's incredibly good. He's also from Pittsburgh, which could play a factor if you're trading for him, you know, hometown boy and all that good stuff. The only problem is the salary cap. The Penguins have no cap space to play with. They probably have to trade someone like Jason Zucker or Marcus Pettersson to free up the cap, and even then, the Ducks would still want a good return for their number 1 goalie who signed until 2027. That could mean you probably have to give up on either Gensel, which would absolutely suck, or Brian Rust, who's been really solid these past seasons, and of course a first round pick, and maybe a prospect, which is already a scarce commodity for the Penguins. But if the Penguins somehow get Gibson, I think it's a home run. A goalie of that caliber in his prime with this team, which is clearly very good still, would be such a huge addition, because we just saw what bad goaltending does to a team that is very much built to compete. If you can't get Gibson, you have to look at the free agents of this offseason. I'm going to quickly touch on the Penguins goaltender prospects later, but they're not relevant right now because the Penguins are in a win now mode. Right, so free agents. There are 4 goaltenders that look set to be free agents this offseason, which would interest me if I'm the Penguins. They are Peter Mrazek, Philip Grubauer, Chris Driedger, and Fredrik Andersson. These are all good goaltenders, but they're not amazing. If I had to pick one, it would be Grubauer, but the question about him is his injury record and also the salary he would ask for. There's no denying he's a very capable goalie, but yeah, injuries and the fact that the Penguins seem to catch the injury bug every year probably isn't the best match. If the Penguins go with a free agent from this class, my prediction is that they go with Peter Mrazek. He's not my first choice, but he's probably going to be cheaper than the rest of my list, and I think Carolina will let him go given the season Alex Nedeljkovic is having. Like I said earlier, I said I would quickly touch on the Penguins goaltending prospects. They are Kalle Klang and Joel Blomqvist, 2 promising goaltenders, but they're both 19 years old and 3, 4, maybe even 5 years away from making the NHL, and by then, Malkin and Crosby may have retired already, so I definitely don't think they should wait for them to develop. I think a lot of people would be screaming for Fleury to make a return for the Penguins, and while it would probably help them for a year or 2, I think they need to look to the future as well, and that's why someone like John Gibson is the ideal fit with that long contract. I know it's easy to sit here and try and be a mastermind, armchair GM and talk about trades and signings and so on, but if the Penguins want to challenge, they have to replace Jarry in my opinion. They have a solid defensive core. I thought Brian Dumoulin was fantastic over the season, Letang was good, and Matheson and Ceci weren't the train wrecks I thought they would be. So the Penguins still have a few more runs in them, but they need that goalie that will help them and bail them out in tough situations. What do you guys think? Am I crazy for suggesting a Gibson trade? And if you agree, what would your mock trade look like? Do you have any other ideas? Tell me in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.